One of the things that a lot of jazz guitarists struggle with is knowing what to do in order to improvise. How do you actually come up with a solo, tell a story? And this is something I was discussing with a student in Chase's Guitar Academy, and I shared with him this concept that I'm going to share with you, and it was a game changer for him. It really helped him have a breakthrough within that class. You could see that he finally understood and had a framework to create solos moving forward. And so this is a concept that I like to call the improvisation dial. And it's called that because we're going to dial up the percentage of improv starting from 0. And if we're doing 0 improv, what that really means is we're just going to start with playing the melody. In this case, we're going to take the song All of Me. We'll do the first 8 bars of the melody. And in each iteration, we're going to dial up that improv a little bit. And I'm going to show you exactly the steps that will help you dial up from 0 to 100% improv. These aren't the only steps that you can take to get there, but they'll give you a good framework, some practical examples that you can apply, and just help you understand this concept so you can work on it yourself. If you stick around to the end of the video, I'll tell you how you can get this PDF and also announce the winners for the George Benson giveaway for his most recent Lost album. So stick around to the end of the video. Okay, let's start off just by playing the melody for All of Me, first 8 bars. So that is our starting point. The first thing I would suggest to dial up the improv percentage, let's say to 20%, is to play around with the rhythm. And we can do that by duplicating some of the notes we're playing in the melody. So give us a slightly more syncopated feel. We're not going to change any order of notes or add in any other notes from the melody. This is just 20%. We're barely dialing it up. Let's listen to what that sounds like. Okay, so we have a slightly more syncopated feel, and that gives us some space to now add in more notes. And the first thing I'd suggest to dial it up a little bit more, maybe to 40%, is adding in some arpeggios. And we're going to start off with some simple 7th arpeggios, maybe add in a 9th arpeggio here and there. Let's listen to what that sounds like, and then we'll discuss where those arpeggios are happening. All right, so the chords we're playing over, C major, E7, A7, and D minor. For the C major, we're adding in the C major 7 arpeggio, not in the same order of C, E, G, B, but just using those notes as notes in our improv. So we start off, that right there is a C major 7 arpeggio, right? We have C, then we go to B, G, and E. All those notes are in the C major 7 arpeggio. Over E7, when we're on this part with B, and we go up to D and go back down, all of those notes are in E7, E, G sharp, B, and D. Right, so this is going to help us visualize the arpeggios in this position as well. And then on A7, we add in a little bit of a 9th arpeggio. So we have, once we hit that B, that's the 9th, coming down, descending on that 9th arpeggio. And then finally on the D minor, we're using an F major 7 arpeggio. And that F major 7 arpeggio gives us the sound of a D minor 9. And so that's here, ending on D. But all of this, those are notes from F major 7, F, A, C, and E. So you can see that we start to get a little bit of an 8th note flow to this solo, but we need to go a little bit further. This is only dialed in a little bit, maybe 40%. The next thing that really starts to make this sound more like an improv, takes us over that 50% marker, is adding in essential jazz patterns. I have a whole course on this, 31 essential jazz patterns. The ones that I'm going to use for today to make this an improv is two different patterns, the 1, 2, 3, 5 and the reverse, 5, 3, 2, 1. And these patterns are simply taking the first, second, third, and fifth note of the chord scale and using those as eighth notes. Let's listen to what that sounds like, and I'll point out how we're using them. Okay, so the first one that we're using is this 5, 3, 2, 1. And you hear that on the C major 7, right? We have right here. It's a great pattern because it lets us voice lead into that E. Instead of just C to B, we get more movement into that B. And then on the E7, to help us lead better into the A7, the next chord, we have a 1, 2, 3, 5. You hear how that 1, 2, 3, 5 wants us to land on A? Bum, right? So that's helping us lead into there. The cool thing with the 1, 2, 3, 5 pattern is a lot of times it'll set you up for another 1, 2, 3, 5 pattern. And that's what happens here. We have 1, 2, 3, 5 in reference to E, E, F sharp, G sharp, B. And then we hit A, but we're on an A chord. So we can do 1, 2, 3, 5 again. A, B, C sharp, E. It's something you hear a lot of players do, and it's a great way of linking essential jazz patterns together. So like I said, we do that again on A7. Because we do that pattern, it brings us into a new point of our arpeggio. So instead of starting the arpeggio on B, we're all the way up here on G when we're descending. Keeping the same concept of descending arpeggio, but from a different starting note. And then on the D minor, that last measure of that, we have another 1, 2, 3, 5. And then we come down the D Dorian scale. This is a lick that I learned from Joe Pass. He does this one a lot. A lot of players do. So that's adding in these 1, 2, 3, 5 and 5, 3, 2, 1. It's starting to sound more like an improv. There is a couple things missing here. And the most important one I think that we're missing is some chromaticism. Everything sounds a little bit too diatonic in the scale. There's not enough tension to really make this feel like an authentic jazz solo. The only exception here is actually the chromatic parts from the melody that we've kept, right? That part. But let's add in some more chromaticism and dial this up to like 80% improv. Let's take a listen to what that sounds like. The first spot that we add the chromaticism in is actually on the E7. We don't do it on the C major. And that's with this pattern. This is a nice one. We hear it a lot. You start on a chord tone, the 5th of E7, and we do this like triplet slide in into another chord tone. And then basically come back to that same note. Right? It's essentially still just the arpeggio, but it doesn't sound as stiff. Right? It sounds pretty nice. Then we add a little bit of an approach note to this 1, 2, 3, 5 pattern. Instead of starting on E, we anticipate it with the D sharp into E. Right? We're basically smoothing out some of these edges and adding in some tension as we do it. And then we play the A7. And then here we do a descending chromaticism from that 3rd of A7, C sharp, just straight down. Hitting another chord tone on D minor, right? So we start on the 3rd of A7. A is the 5th of D minor. So that's a nice way to get to there. And then when we're going to this D minor pattern, instead of going down to C, we can anticipate that D with a chromatic C sharp. Instead of that C sharp just leads us better into D. So those are some ways we would add in chromaticism to make this fit more into a jazz type of genre, get that chromaticism that we're expecting when we hear jazz. Okay, this is already starting to sound pretty good, but the last bit we can dial up is just refining some of the aspects of this. And what I mean by that is we can go back to the rhythm here and see if we can refine some things, see if the notes that we are leading to hold and are presented in the way we want them. And then also just address some more syncopation, make this a little bit less boring rhythmically. We could also add in some other embellishments that we're used to hearing, like some faster triplet back and forth embellishments. And so I think this last step is really just that, refining the elements we've already put in place and give it some more articulation and rhythm that is more appropriate for what we're trying to do. So let's listen to this. This is 100% dialed in, let's say. So you might notice on that A7, we hold up on that G, since that's like our high point, and then we make up for that with this triplet down. That little up sweep, not even going through A7, but just like A minor 7. Just because that's a little bit easier on guitar. It fits nice on this. The other embellishment, instead of starting on the downbeat with that C sharp, we're actually playing it on an upbeat. So we get these consecutive upbeats. Feels a bit more natural. And having a lot of your phrases start on downbeats can start to be very predictable. And then the last embellishment is on that D minor 8th note line. We do a little back and forth triplet between the A and the G. Something that you might hear a bebop saxophonist do. So hopefully that gives you some idea of how you can dial up this improv. Start off with a melody that you know. Just take a short phrase, 4 to 8 bars, and then on each of these iterations, do one more approach that you're going to try and add into the melody. The thing that I hope you notice is that even at this 100% dialed in, it still is very clear that this is a solo on All of Me. You can really hear the harmony on this, and not just the harmony, but the melody of All of Me without it being an exact copy of the melody. So I hope that's really helpful for you. Let's announce the winners of the George Benson album contest. If you want the PDF for this, you can get all my YouTube PDFs by joining Chase's Guitar Academy. There's a free trial, 14-day free trial. You can just check the links in the description. All right, so the first winner, I have this on a little paper here. The first winner of the giveaway is the Guitar Company, Ohio. I'll contact you. And then the second winner is Farad69. So thank you guys for commenting and participating in the giveaway. Let me know in the comments what lesson you guys want to see from me next, what you guys thought of this lesson. And make sure you hit like and subscribe to the channel. That really helps the channel out. Appreciate your guys' support. See you guys in the next one.